get into it?
I started the recording.
Okay. Welcome, future viewers. My name is Ben Ide. I'm emceeing our Startup Grind University of Minnesota conversations this spring. I'm joined, as always, by the director of our Startup Grind U of M, Rahul Bojwani, and our guest for the day, Nolan Singroy, the co-founder of Forever Ware. So I'm going to share my screen real quick so that I can walk us through the usual intro to Startup Grind. We're a global community of entrepreneurs. We get together to learn from each other on a regular basis.
I'm not seeing a screen yet. Oh, I do now. Okay.
Okay. We're Startup Grind. We're a global community of entrepreneurs, startupgrind.com, with some core values that have proven out around the world. Give first, focus on supporting the community around us, help others. Another similar stance. That's why the three of us are here, is to try and share something of what Nolan has learned in service of your own entrepreneurship and to make friends. And we just spent 5 minutes catching up on all the ways that our paths have overlapped and all the cool tools we're learning about. So we decided we should probably start recording. So it wasn't just us making friends, it was us giving first and helping others on this call. If you listened to our talk with Dick Polipnik last month, you've heard from me. I'm a U of M alum from 2018. Most recently, I did physics. Before that, I worked for the Entrepreneurship Center at the U. Rahul, do you want to give us a brief intro to yourself before I introduce Nolan?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Rahul Bojwani, PhD student here at the U, and I'm the chapter director of the Startup Grind chapter here at the U. And of course, Ben is helping me with being a very great supportive director. And the format of this meeting will be that Ben will take the lead and he'll be the host and he'll ask questions. Mainly just to know you more, Nolan, and I'll be just more like an observer, sitting and learning from you. And if I have some curious questions that pop in between, then I'll ask those. But yeah, looking forward to this session to just learn more about your beautiful journey so far.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. And Nolan Singroy, you are the co-founder and chief operating officer of Forever Ware, which is a pretty innovative circular economy startup. I think I first learned about your work through the beta MN showcase last summer online. So we have, I think, an understanding of what you work on, but I wanted to give you an elevator pitch opportunity. What's your story? What's Forever Ware? And tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for the intro and thank you for having me on this talk. I hope it can be resourceful for students in the future. Well, Forever Ware is a clean tech company. What we do is we have a network of these smart stainless steel reusable containers that we offer restaurants as a solution to the throwaway culture. Since the early stage of the COVID pandemic, restaurants switched to 100% reusables to takeout and to takeout and delivery, adding to waste in the landfill. Virtually none of these containers can be recycled due to plastic coating that's impossible to separate. So the PFAS and the BPA and so forth that's on the containers. The mission, Forever's mission, is to accelerate the world's transition to reusable food packaging. By signing up with us, restaurants and other food businesses get an ongoing supply of multi-use packaging that their customers can borrow for free and return to convenient shared drop points throughout the community. Our containers are durable, they'll last for thousands of uses, and are accessible to everyone and safe for our health and planet. We call this service reusables as a service. We focus heavily on practices of the circular economy that keep resources in use longer, such as containers, utensils, and totes, and maximize the useful life of existing resources, such as commercial dishwashers. A little bit about myself, if I want to go into that. I'm Minnesota native. I was born and raised in Minnesota, but my parents are from Guyana, South America. My background, I studied computer science at chem at University of Minnesota Duluth, but I would call myself an avid lifetime learner. I learned a lot about job related things through Udacity and Google certifications. When I was 20, back in UMD, I launched an adventure renter game to the Google Play Store. and that's where I taught myself JavaScript. I have experience working as a software engineer at a local startup tech company in Northeast Minneapolis. Yeah, I guess more so on Forever Ware and why I want to get started.
Yeah, that is usually the next question. I do see a few parallels here with our most recent guest in terms of a lot of self-taught taking initiative, but you started out as a chemist and a computer scientist, and I feel like there's some problem solving in this part of your entrepreneurship. But
Absolutely.
has that always been the case for your entrepreneurial ventures? I mean, the game that you wrote, I don't know. Tell your story. How do you see a path?
Personally, I guess that for the game, I've always been I wanted to impact the world for the greater good. If that's through a game, then it's through a game. I did love my favorite course though was C++, so problem solving, of course.
Makes sense. So yeah, so during undergrad, that spark got lit of the path to entrepreneurship. What else have you done to continue pursuing that, either through your university work or through the, I don't know, just independent?
Through independent work, yeah, of course. So I guess this kind of goes into why I got started and how I'm at Forever Ware, I guess, per se. It was when so about 2 years ago, I went to go visit my grandfather, not this trip, but a different trip, and it was just an eye-opening moment to see what was actually going on in the world. So I remember visiting him and just to see how he was doing and his health, and then opening myself up to the result of the linear economy. I was able to see plastic waste on the beaches, in the trenches. And I remember there's a moment where there's a experience where I went to one of the beaches in a village that both my parents are from, and there was trash everywhere. And I asked my cousin where all this came from, and he told me that every week volunteers come and clean up this beach, and every week they're going to have to come again and clean up this beach because no one's littering on these beaches. Is trash and single-use plastic waste is coming from the Atlantic Ocean, and filling the beaches. So it hit me, and when I came back, I was a software engineer, and I'd always wanted to just be. I didn't want to work at a bank. I wanted to be impactful, do something meaningful. And so I promoted the linear economy. I joined zero waste groups. I joined a green team at a co-op and pitched the idea of starting a bike delivery service where we collect goods from co-ops and other bulk stores, zero waste stores, and deliver it to customers. And so when I started that journey, I incorporated in Delaware as a C Corp at the time. And then I went to Startup Grind in Silicon Valley and had pitched that. I brought my pitch deck, and it gave me some motivation to keep going. And so on that journey, what I did was I had, I guess, serendipitous, I ran into Natasha and Nick, who were working on Forever Ware at that moment. And so to speak more on behalf, I guess in general, Forever Ware is, to keep going, when I came back, I took courses through Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and then through Delft University on circular economics.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't call myself sorry?
I'm just thinking, if somebody wanted to attend those classes, are these some of the free resources that you found online, or?
Yep, they usually come seasonally, and they're free, but you do have to apply for some of them.
Gotcha. Maybe we'll follow up with you after this call and see what sort of links we can share with our audience, because I think I have a basic understanding. The linear economy is our traditional, we buy a Ziploc bag, we use it once, we throw it out.
Yeah, make waste.
And the circular economy is more, we get the plastic, we use it, we find a way to sort the recyclables, or we get one of those reusable, like honey paper wrap things, and just keep reusing the Ziploc bag. Like, But I think that taking one of these online courses would be a way for a student, if they're concerned about plastic waste, to arrive at a level of understanding like yours, where they see, oh, I could take this skill and that skill and find some teammates to make a really exciting.
I would totally agree. I think it's the equation involves a lot of being a part of groups, networking, and taking those courses, any courses that you may find. I mean, even if it is joining the zero waste groups, just so you have someone to talk to and to get a different perspective on it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I think we've talked big picture about your inspiration and about the courses that got you the know-how to start Forever Ware, but walk us through more of the specifics. After you met Nick and Natasha, how did it grow from there? How did the pandemic affect it? And where are you at today?
Yeah, so when this was back in February, when I decided to join forces with Nick and Natasha. Natasha, currently our CEO, and Nick, who works on finance. They both have a background, over 20 years of experience in software engineering. They were software engineers at Target headquarters. Currently, at that moment, when I had met them through a mentor in the startup community, hadn't got started on Forever. They were just like in the idea phase, and so when I approached, we had decided to work on this, and so this was February. Let's see, since February we took courses together. We did one other course I recommend is the Launch Minnesota has a value proposition course, and I think that one's like once or twice a year, and I highly recommend that course. So Natasha and I, Nick was working as a developer for a different company, so Natasha and I, we took that course together, and it took us a couple of months, and then in June we decided, since this was COVID time, the restaurants weren't actually open. As soon as restaurants opened, we decided to go out to the restaurants and to see if we can meet restaurant owners. So one of the good things about the Value Prop course is to give you access to the U of M Trusted Peer Network. And so they gave us a mentor, Parag, and he's the ex-co-founder of Foodsby. And so he actually gave us one of the most valuable advice about talking to restaurant owners. He told us the hospitality industry was really personal, that you have to go out there and you have to talk to the owners if you ever wanted to get a partnership. And so that's what we did. We created a one-pager, Natasha and I, and this was like a June 14th. We created a basic Minnesota LLC. We created a basic Shopify website. And then we just ate at restaurants and we talked about the business, and we talked about, hopefully we got lucky actually, that the owners were there in each instance that we went to. And so we were able to pitch to them and give them the one pager. And so we were able to land 4 partnerships. So within a month, we built the website because we had come from engineering backgrounds. And then but I mean, I guess anyone can build a Shopify website. I'm not saying that you have to be an engineer to do this. Shopify is a basic platform that you can build a website on. We landed the 4 partnerships, and then we got started. What we did was we offered a pilot. It was a pilot program. It was a pre-order delivery service to customers. So eco-friendly, conscious customers can go on our Shopify website, order from the partnered restaurants, and then get the food delivered to them the next day. I remember at that stage, in my idea stage, I remember sitting outside of Tower Organic Natural Food Store, and I was looking through my emails, and I got an email from Ben, and he was asking me about the optimizing or trying the service, because we had locked the service down to just the Minneapolis zip codes to optimize delivery routes.
I live in Roseville. I'm like quarter mile across the freeway from Minneapolis, and I think you offered to like deliver it to me, or I could pick it up from somewhere. So
yeah, I remember giving you my zip code because at that stage, I wanted feedback, because we're at the idea MVP status at that startup phase. And I wanted feedback from customers. That's extremely valuable to me at that stage. And so if you live in Roseville, that's okay. I'll drive out there and I'll deliver you some, whatever food you want, just to hear whatever feedback you can give me.
Yeah, there's a book in that value proposition course that you took called Talking to Humans, that I think the PDF used to be free online. I know this because the teacher of that course I used to work for back at the university. But yeah, the whole
Dale.
idea of the customer interview. I think one version of the course you took requires participants to go and talk to 25 potential users of their product. So
yeah, that was an excellent
data.
excellent course. I remember even during that course, there were times when I had to post things on Next Door Neighbor and had to figure out how to land those customer interviews just to narrow in, who the customers actually were. And Natasha has a good background. She actually has a little bit of experience as a telemarketer, and I think that makes her a better entrepreneur just because she was able to pick up the phone and call people and convince people to buy a product.
Having a sales member on the team, it's an asset. You got to balance the business and tech skills.
Can I jump in here for a quick thing, Ben? So one quick thing, by the way, that you brought up about Parag, right? So Parag Shah, he has been our speaker as well at the UMN Startup Grind earlier. Pretty cool guy, right? So another thing, and another quick thing that I wanted to ask in terms of the point that you just brought up about the value prop course and the customer feedback, right? I think I personally believe that that's a very, very important thing, right? In terms of a startup's journey, and specifically, I think throughout the journey of a startup, even if you're a big company, but specifically when you're like really starting, right? So can you maybe touch a bit more about the interviews that you did from customers and like things that you learned as you kind of moved towards narrowing down to what you have right now? Oh, I am seeing you're using the container right now as well.
Yeah, and I can definitely demo that too. To speak more on behalf of your question, sure. So at that stage, we're offering this pilot service where it's pre-orders. We don't actually do the current model that we have right now. I can get into that. So what Natasha and I wanted to do was we wanted to validate our hypothesis. We wanted to see if people are actually willing to pay more to reduce waste. We wanted to see if if the restaurant owners are okay with this, and if they're willing to pay more, then we have and if they're eco-friendly. There was two things that we wanted to do to validate, and we validated those things by doing that pilot test. Through the customer interviews, we were able to break down the psychographics of who the customers actually were. And for that specific pilot phase, we did find that, okay, there's the zero waste group of people, of the end user customers, and then there's the people who want to be zero waste, and that was the target audience, is what we found. When we did in the fall time, so we ran that last summer, and we ran it for a couple of months, and we gathered good data. But we did end up switching when we got into beta MN. So that actually helped us get into beta, having customers and actually going out there and being a founder and talking to customers. If you're trying to get into a local accelerator program, start the program, start whatever you have right now, and then apply to accelerators.
Yeah, the Minnesota Cup, I believe, has applications open a little while longer, for instance. But yeah, keep your ears open. Forge North has a lot of those accelerators listed. And so I think we'll talk about that in the resources part of the conversation, but I wanted to sort of land this plane in terms of you ran these tests, you ran the MVP, gathered the data, learned about your customer, and you're right now in 5 or 6 restaurants kind of in the Uptown area. So
yeah,
how do we interact with Forever Ware right now?
So when we during beta, they helped us realize that so we have influencers and decision makers, and so if we focus just on takeout, and if we focus as our end user customers as just the restaurants, we're able to fine tune the business logic. And so that's what Natasha and I did in beta. This is during the fall time, and so during beta, that's what we focused on. And so what we switched the model to focus target restaurants, provide them with reusable dishware, that can sign up on a monthly subscription per usage. There's no contract, there's no commitment. And then when a Forever Ware customer or someone who's eco-conscious goes to that restaurant, they can opt in on their POS system or on their online ordering ticket system and purchase whatever they want, their restaurant food, within a Forever container. And then what the metrics, how it works is that, so the restaurant actually pays a $5 deposit for any type of container that we have. And I can show you some of the containers we have. We source these, and one of the hardest things I would say is looking for an ethical manufacturer, one that applies to all the criteria that you want it to apply to. It must have a 9001 ISO standard, and it must have a 4500 and so forth. We kind of like gear our mindset right now as a startup. We can't hit all of them, but we kind of like look towards like parent companies like Clean Canteen or Patagonia to see what kind of standards they're setting. They're B corporations, I was saying vague. But so we have these single wall containers, and then we have, as you can see, and this is what one of the display stands look like at the restaurant. I actually 3D printed this stand. And so this is a dual insulated container. And so how we track usage right now and billing to the customers is that we had offered this disposable or compostable lid. And this was because at that stage, we got a $26,000 grant from Hennepin County, and we were bootstrapping. So we didn't have all the funds we could to buy reusable silicone lids. We're switching towards reusables right now at the moment, fully reusables with silicone lids. And so we're gonna obsolete, archive the old compostable lids. So we're changing our tracking.
Them, it'd be a waste to throw them out.
We'll let it run its course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get the full use out of it. It's part of its life cycle.
So per use, a customer or a restaurant would pay. A restaurant actually pays Forever Ware for amount of initial set, and then they check it out to the customer. And when they check it out, that $5 that the restaurant paid, they break even. So what we do is we get paid by restaurants from the old packaging that we try to save them money, of course. And so that's one of our value prop. And so usually if a restaurant's paying for 100% compostable or recyclable product, they're paying somewhere between 7 and like 40 cents. I've seen restaurants pay like $1.50 for a nice takeout container. So we'll try to match them and just get them down so they actually can save money. And so that's what we'll charge for each individual transaction from the restaurant. So as a customer now, the customer has this checked out and they can have as many as they want. They can go to any partner network in the Forever network or restaurant and go use the service again and swap it out and not have to pay anything. So it's free for the customers.
It's pretty good. I'm just thinking about the startup some friends and I tried to run a few years ago, selling cleaner, cheaper charcoal, where we had to not only understand, well, I won't talk about that. What I understand from your model is that you have to understand the restaurant value proposition and you have to understand the takeout buyer value proposition. You have to make a product that addresses both customers' perspectives at once, or allows, you sell it to the business sells to the customer. But I don't know, it's a complicated problem, and you very clearly have put a whole lot of time and thought into this, and you're in stores. I think that's the true test, or the true indication that you've got it figured out.
Definitely those customer interviews helped a lot about breaking down the psychology. Another good way to think about it too is and someone just told me this, actually it was in a homework assignment from Techstars. They sent this out a couple days ago, and it just blew my mind, is to think about marketing as what is the job function of the product, as in if I'm trying to what makes someone buy a milkshake. Why would I hire a milkshake to fulfill? What is that job function that I'm hiring that milkshake? And they turned out to break it down to specifically in the AM, they just need something to be satisfied, and it has to fit in their cup holder. So I think I tend to look at things now as what is the job function? Why would people hire Forever Ware? To break my own value prop down.
Yeah. I remember at a conference a few years ago, one of the speakers' refrain was, if the user can't use it, it doesn't work. So you got to meet them where they're at. Now that we sort of have a better understanding of Forever Ware.
Actually, Ben, I'm guessing you're going to the next section. So yeah. before you do that, quick thing. So by the way, again, I love the reference that you just brought up about the video. I think it's by Clay Christensen, right? Where he does like, like who is the, why would you sell? Like, what is the job of somebody buying a milkshake or stuff like that? So it's a pretty interesting video that you just referenced. So quick question on what Ben just brought up earlier, right? Where I feel like in a space like yours, you in my understanding, you have like two sets of customers, right? Like one thing is you're thinking of restaurants, and like that's a customer segment, but then other customer segment is like people who are taking out, like people who are getting the takeout from the restaurant. So, and I think you brought up the point that when you did the beta MN cohort, they kind of help you narrow down to focus on the restaurants as a big customer. So I just want to understand, like right now, who do you consider your customer? Do you consider only B2B like restaurants, or do you feel in your value prop, or when you're kind of narrowing down and doing those customer interviews, are you doing customer interviews with only the businesses, or are you also doing customer interviews with people who are eco-friendly and probably want to use takeout containers which are eco-friendly?
So, okay, so I guess in this model is different, especially because it's a circular business model. I would say both. I would say at first we started targeting just the end user customers, and then we started talking the business to business model, where we started interviewing restaurants because we realized they had more value. They're influencers, if they can post about us on their Instagram and social media pages, we would get more zero waste, eco-friendly customers. But right now, I told you that we have a deposit model, and of course, the system works good. We have tons of competitors out in different cultured countries like Australia and Germany. In Germany, if you look up Recup, they have an amazing deposit and reward model that's going on for them. And then there's Returner in Australia. There's a lot of competitors too in progressive states in the United States as well, like California, Portland, and then New York. But so we have a current deposit model, but we from doing some of both of the interviews, we realized that we don't want to make it difficult for the end user customer to go try Forever Ware at the restaurant, and we don't want to make it hard for our restaurant to actually adopt Forever Ware. And so what we could do is we could create an application, a progressive web app, and actually have the end user subscribe and then go in and try it. So the restaurant won't have to do any initial deposit, and the customer can try it for free. And if they sign on if they don't return it in X amount of time and they want to keep the containers, that's okay. They can get charged the amount that the container would actually cost. And so until that service is, until they keep it, it's a free service for everyone. And so we're breaking away from that deposit model into back to the end consumer. So we have both. I would say B2B and B2C. And of course, this is just because, and it's a phased approach. Because of everything that's happened, I don't think a company would do well if they just did one shot at it. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that definitely in the future, when we do implement this, it would start to see from the restaurants that we talk to, because we're removing the barriers of entry, we would see a better growth, customer usage per se.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think as I listen to the way you're approaching this, Nolan, I think it might be easy to hear what you're saying and think, oh, this is going to be the solution that works for every type of restaurant, every neighborhood. But I think what I'm hearing when I listen to you is that, you've done the work, you've done the rigorous, get to know the neighborhood, get to know the people who are actually using your service. And in the variety of ways that you could approach this problem, you're picking the ones that really work for them. Like,
correct.
Specializing. So I think that's one huge takeaway from your model. Are there, and it's really helpful, because if you're doing something as complicated as B2B and B2C, you need to know that your strategy is going to yield results. I don't know, that's sort of what I've gotten from what you are bringing to this conversation. We mentioned before the call that we'd ask for, some leadership or some advice for current U of M students, undergraduate, graduate, technical, business, liberal arts. What are your thoughts? How should people prepare?
I guess as an engineer or hardware, so going back to metrics too, customer usage, we saw from the months that we actually did start, we saw a 36% increase each month to month, which is good. And now we're moving away from the compostable lids to a reusable. Next week I just finished the IoT tap to return device, and so we're going to start to implement tracking mechanisms. So we would be able to better track customer usage and customer retention at the restaurants. And I could actually show you guys one of the prototypes that I built. It took me not too long to build this, but what I like about this though, and I'm inspired by companies like Fairphone, and they're a reusable modular phone that reuses all the components. So you don't have to recycle the phone after 2 years or after it breaks. You can simply go call the Fairphone or ship it back to them, and they'll ship you the same one, or they'll ship you the exact part. And if you're technical, you can just pop it in and the phone will work. What I did with this one was, so if you're an engineer, I highly recommend looking into like Fairphone and reusable, how things can be just stacked. Like if a hardware breaks on this device, it's stackable, where I can go to the restaurant and I can pull out the hardware and stack another system back on it and reuse it. It's repairable. As far as leadership, I would say definitely be open to all the roles you have to fill in a startup. It's not a walk in the park, or you have to definitely be passionate about what you think, what your future business or venture will be, because you're going to be spending your whole life on it.
That some good advice, and definitely I think the advice about being passionate about what you do circles back to the first advice you gave about the design of that product, which, by the way, can you hold that up again?
Sure. Yeah.
I think we've talked a lot about business and design, but is there a little Forever Ware logo?
Yeah, definitely. And this was courtesy of my sister. She donated me a UV stereolithography printer. And so actually this printer, I had to do some research, and I found that there was one manufacturer who sold UV resin made from soybean oil. And so it decomposes, it's compostable. And so this UV resin is made from soybean oil and can decompose. And it's actually behind me if you want to take a look at it. So I'm able to create the model of whatever I'm building and print it within a couple of hours.
Excellent. I think that, yeah, it's that combination of statistical rigor, getting to know your customer, and keeping the design in mind that it adds up to a really interesting and hopefully successful business. I need to get back to Uptown and actually try it out sometime soon. We do have 2 folks in the audience today listening in. And I will just verbally encourage them to share some questions with us in the Q&A. I think one of them might be the person who loaned you that 3D printer. So she'll be glad that it's being put to good use.
Till we get more questions in the Q&A section. So one quick thing, Nolan, this is so amazing to see that you have been you've done so much, because you started, looks like, with software engineer. You've done web development, JavaScript and stuff is what you're sharing earlier, and then you talked about progressive web app and stuff in terms of software, right? And then I'm seeing you're doing some really cool stuff in terms of hardware as well, right? And looks like right now you are maybe heavily focused on hardware engineering roles in terms of the current, as you kind of shared in your bio. And then of course you're kind of being a co-founder, you're doing all business stuff, interviewing people and stuff. So this is pretty cool to hear. Do you want to maybe share? I'm curious, how did you started learning about all these things, and where do you see yourself heading in terms of as things go by? I mean, I have a sense that since you're a co-founder, you're wearing all the hats, but it's still it's a lot of different grounds. So
yeah, I would say one thing about is that you're gonna have to wear many hats at a startup, and definitely don't become too attached to something you like or that role you like, because an intern might take it and then you get hurt feelings. We just hired our first intern from the McAllister program a couple days ago, so it's cool. We get to work with her this summer. She worked on the plastic the plastic bag ban in Oregon. But yeah, I've definitely, for myself personally, I'm an engineer type person, and I like to. It would be fun for me to just write code all day long. But it's also fun for me to go talk to restaurant owners and figure out, how I can further the business logic and actually expand the company in a better way. So right now, at the moment, I'm not sure.
Sorry, putting my brain together there. Everybody brings a different set of skills to the business. You find the right combination to move the business forward and to, keep your own energy level up. So the way that I want to try and segue this into, what resources can you share with us? Any recommendations for what are the best foods to get Forever Ware in at some of your favorite restaurants that the product is at right now? Or, can we, if we go get takeout and we're talking to somebody behind the counter, can we say, hey, check out Forever Ware. I'd love to switch from this container to something more reusable. Like, what resources are you thinking of that could support our students, and how can we support you in turn?
As far as resources for a student to better grow, or just for the usage of Forever Ware? I'm a bit confused by that one.
Either, I think a little bit of both. Resources to help students on their entrepreneurial journey. I think we've covered that a bit already in this call.
Yeah.
But also, we encourage a shameless plug of your business. How do we find you?
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can search my name. But I really like I've been grown. I'm friends with Stephen Moore, the CEO of Culture Booster. He was part of our beta class, and so he's definitely my shameless plug. He's transforming the way HR platform works and culture in the workplace, especially now when things are so remote. So that's my shameless plug. Going back to the resources, I would definitely highly recommend the Value Prop course, School of Carlson, and then Beta MN. And if you're an engineer and a hardware engineer, there's a good place to go to. It's called the Hackerspace. It's the Twin Cities Makerspace. They're located near U of M campus, actually.
This is like TC Maker, the Hack Factory over in Seward.
Yep. Yeah. I turned to one of my other friends. His name is Elijah Nelson. He's the CEO of Jock Labs, and he is building sports training robots. And so he actually goes there now because of me.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a tool library where you can rent access to 3D printers and metalworking tools and woodworking. I haven't been there.
Laser cutters. Yeah, exactly. And what was really cool about joining that makerspace was that when you are working through business insurance and they ask you how many assets you have and what tools are you using and how much those tools cost, you can tell them, hey, I have 0 tools, and actually I'm renting it. So if something were to happen to that tool, I'm not liable for it. So your premium is lower.
That is a great tool for a bootstrapper, a great way to save some money on insurance.
Yep.
Liability is how they get us. And how we keep ourselves safe, I think our financial friends would probably say. Let's see. I don't know. Rahul, you've brought some really great questions today. Do you have one more to send us off?
I do actually. A little bit more curious about, so you started the journey in Feb 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
Met Natasha and team, and you shared about your journey so far, about how you narrowed down to some groups. I was just curious if you would like to share more about, what's your future plans, like what are your expansion plans, and what are the bigger next steps that you guys are thinking of, and yeah, a little bit on that.
Yeah, so the stretch goal is to scale to 100 restaurants by the end of the year. We have just approached the effects of PR, of the public, of like press. I guess we were featured in Star Tribune a week ago or last weekend, but it did bring in a lot of interested vendors, and so that's a good approach that we haven't yet to tackle. We do plan to scale to Chicago if possible, just because just by going there, the restaurants that, you know, the amount of impact that we can have on such a space is really good. There's a huge room for growth there. We are the finalists right now for a Chicago-based accelerator called Food Foundries. So our interviews in 2 weeks. But we do, as far as growth and scale, there's that. We do have an interview with Techstars Monday in 2 days.
Oh, so that's the Farms to Fork program.
Farms to Fork Techstar, yep.
Wow. Pretty cool, yeah. Brett Brule, who's based out of here, is kind of leading that, correct?
Correct, yeah. He's the managing director of Farm to Fork.
Wow. Well, that's some exciting next steps, actually.
Yeah, hopefully, the goal of the Forever mission is to convert the world to reusable packaging. And I know like our whole team has a technical experience and technical background. We did have people reach out to us who wanted to just license our technology and our software. And so there's a ton of competitors out there that want to do reuse systems. And I know every market might be a little bit different. And different competitors specialize in just sanitation or just delivery, or, you know, various aspects of the reusables as a service. And so we do see ourselves in the future offering the ability to license our technology out to further scale ourselves.
So I think we're catching you at the beginning of the journey. I think we should circle back, pun intended, on 6 months or a year and see how you've grown through Techstars locally, through this Chicago accelerator, and I don't know, how this reusable food ecosystem has flourished.
Yeah, it's thank you. Yeah, definitely. It just feels good to me to impact. In just January and February with our current partners, we were able to reduce 1,400 containers from landfill. And currently, the past couple of months, just only 3 or 4 partners were able to reduce about 3,000. And this is restaurants who have the capacity. We're only running capacity at 5%. So in a couple of months, hopefully, we'll go 10 to 30,000 containers from landfill, and that's just rewarding for me to think about.
That's incredible. And as more people get vaccinated, I hope that keeps your business model booming.
Thanks, Ben.
You're welcome. We haven't seen any Q&A from the chat. Maybe folks will have more questions after we're done recording, but for now, I think this is really, it's a good place to sign off for now and invite you back sometime soon.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to also say that, I mean, I loved, I see the intention. I think it's beautiful to see that you have this intention of, green energy and stuff. You shared your story of how you got connected in the beginning, but like, even like, like when you shared about the 3D printer that you're using, or, even the hardware system that you're building, you're kind of still, keeping your base and ground towards, something which is reusable and stuff. So that's really beautiful to see, like the intention being so strong in you, and driving a business with that intention. So it was a beautiful conversation. Really loved talking to you, man. Is there anything else that you maybe want to share? Any last comments before we sign it off?
I guess for students, I highly recommend just listening to YC Combinator. I'm very fun. Even before the Value Prop course, I would listen to YC Combinator every other day. If I was on a walk or if I'm just at the house, I would listen to the podcast of how to get customers and how to get started, and they're really helpful. Mm-hmm. And even so, the later months, 6 months down the road, I would listen to the whole thing all over again. And it changes because you're at a different stage. You're at it from the idea stage to now paying user stage, and all those advice they gave you changes. So you think about it from a different perspective. So as a resource for students, I would start there.
Great.
Completely free, completely online.
I would just add on to that, again, I agree, like YC videos are really great. Plus also Startup Grind YouTube channel is also, I would say, a great resource where, you can see a lot of these sections and, authentic conversations with key speakers, who have gone through this route. So it'll be beautiful to even listen to Startup Grind YouTube channel and, getting information and knowledge from there. Just to add on that resource. Awesome.
Right. Yeah, and thank you for letting Nolan have the last word. I think let's cut off the recording here and chat a little bit. And I don't know, it's starting to get sunny. So
I just did that virtual applause, by the way. I don't know if you guys heard.
Okay. Is it stop recording now?
I'm gonna
the
stop.
recording light's still